this is the ZapMe Chronicles. It's named after basically the name for a file that my if I didn't care about it and I could just delete it at will after I created it, right? And I've never beaten Minecraft in hardcore, right? So this is actually my third attempt on this seed. I decided to keep the same seed because that makes things somewhat easier. And what we're going to do is that we're going to just recreate ZapMe 2 for ZapMe 3. Okay. And one of the reasons that I'm keeping it is because I found a really nice, relatively close to spawn mushroom island. When I say relatively close, I mean I use chunk base to look up where it is, and it's this nice kind of round shape. And I think I'm going to more or less start by creating my forever base in on that island, right? And it's in the middle of the sea and whatnot. Oh, also for hardcore, it starts off with this little fun high. I'm in the middle of a like terracotta or something. I don't know. I'm not very good at Minecraft. I expect this to actually be fairly short. Thing where you are on the top of this like ridiculously tall mesa, and that's fun. So I'm going to just jump down and hope I hit the water. Whee! Okay. So the next thing that I need to do is find myself some, and that's the way that we're supposed to be going, but I'm not going to go that direction just yet. So one of the things that we're going to need to do pretty quickly is find ourselves, oh, good, there's that biome over there. I haven't actually played very much in the part of the map where you actually spawn. Oh, yay. I wonder if I'm going to get that flower when I break this. Oh, yep. Got myself a cactus flower. Good. Oh, sheep. I'm going to have to go get the sheep first. Do need to get myself a sword, though. And we're going to get ourselves a bed and 2 of the kinds of saplings here. So I used to really like this birch wood. It's still probably one of my favorites. And what I think is really cool about it is that it it's really light, and so I recently discovered pale wood. Pale wood is also really cool. So hopefully I'm going to be able to play with that a little bit more. It's cool when you so it's a dark oak variant, and so I'm going to be spending a lot of time on my island. And so one of the things that I want to do is I'm going to kind of probably lay out like this checkerboard sort of pattern so I can know where everything is. And because we're probably going to spend a lot of the game there before. Oh, yes, reeds too. Awesome. I need to create my sword and go get my bed first because I don't like the night. So one of the things that makes hardcore especially challenging for me is the fact that I'm really bad at this game in terms of like the combat and whatnot. Like I'm okay. I thought there were sheep over here. Oh, there it is. There they are. Okay. I'm actually really bad at this game. So, yay. And because I'm bad at the game, I die fairly often. So, part of the challenge of the hardcore is the fact that you can't die ever or else. And I need to go get my other saplings. And because I'm going to need like more. Okay. I'm bad at talking, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start up a YouTube video, I think, once I get my bed. And I like theology, so you don't like theology, you might not like my streams very much. But if you don't like theology, well, you're boring, okay? Theology is like the most interesting, is one of the most interesting subjects, I think, that you can study. And I need to actually, this is a big one, where I need to get myself, okay. There we go. Okay. And we need two, like, I'm not too worried about the exact number that I have. And we're probably on our way there going to create several, like, oh God, that would be terrible if there's no stone. Not being able to find any stone would be very disappointing. We're just going to go down, because if I can find myself a like, and the screen's probably like completely blank right now. So if I can find myself some like ore, that might be useful. Okay. And I'm just going to go until this pick wears out. Of course, I probably should have had some. Nope, I'm going to go that direction then. That's not what I need. Nope. Oops. And I'll probably leave random chests everywhere as I'm going through this, because I don't want to carry everything that I necessarily get. So, yeah. Okay, we lost our pick, and time to go back up into the sun. Probably we can find out where the sun is. There we go. I made that real twisty on myself there, didn't I? Good job. Okay. Now that we should actually have halfway decent tools, we can continue our, so for example, now that I've got stone sword, I don't want my wooden sword anymore, so we'll be ditching that at some point. Boom. And then, boom, boom. And one of the things that I'm definitely want to say is that, yeah, sure, this is a hardcore game, but honestly, I just want to have fun. And right now, challenging myself to see if I can survive in hardcore is fun, But like, I'm not afraid to, import things if that'll make me have more fun. Like, some people are like way too strict about what they allow in. So, for example, like the spawn. So what happens is that in Minecraft, you've got these spawn chunks that are like always loaded, and they're really useful for like farms and whatnot. So that, because they're always going, right? Well, I'm probably going to move my spawn and size it so that my so that the or not size it, but brain fart. But move it basically so that with using an NBT editor, so that I can, have the so that I can have the spawn where I actually build my base, you know, and like I found this Mushroom Island through using. Oh, it's getting dark. I need to go get my. Okay, there's a sheep. Oh, there might be a village behind it. But no, I am not. I just need one sheep to die. That's not a sheep. Oh, I messed myself up. Anyway, so we're going to head towards that light source over there. Oh, there's another sheep. Okay, good. We're not completely messed up. Okay, cool. Oops, I forgot my crafting table back there. And wool, planks, bed. And I'm going to be dyeing that red as soon as practical. So basically, I don't want to get into a fight until I've got like fully leveled up and enchanted armor and whatnot, because I'm bad at it. And having something that makes me effectively kind of invulnerable would be really nice, and so I'm going to the plan right now is for villagers, right? And basically bringing a whole ton of villagers, and then like getting it so I can trade for emeralds and like use farmers to get emeralds, and then paper and whatever else they're tradable with, right? And so that I can have like fully enchanted diamond armor and everything. So, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a huge city for them on the Mushroom Island, and so that like it's not completely me being sad and alone, even if I have to kidnap some villagers for another village. But what I actually think would be more interesting to do, okay, is to make to kidnap 2 zombie villagers and to turn them into the founders of my city. That's probably stupid given how terrible I am at this game. On the other hand, like, you got to take some risk, man. You got to just go and do sometimes. So, yeah. I'm going to wait for those to decay because wood's going to be very useful, and so are saplings. And I would like to get saplings from as many different types of trees as possible because we're probably going to use a lot of wood. Okay, so cactus flower. I need to look up cactus flower real quick, and let's start up some YouTube to do it. So, under Jesus' birth undermined. We'll see.
Now, what I hope to accomplish in this seminar is to further my understanding of that, because the story upon which our culture is based, the gospel story, let's say, is deeply mysterious and dramatically peculiar and hallucinogenic. It's a trip, and it's not understandable from the purely rational perspective.
You heard it here first. The Gospels are a trip and not understandable from a rational perspective.
You always have to remember how crazy what we're saying is.
Okay. So here's one of the things. Okay, is that there's I personally disagree that they're not understandable from a purely rational perspective. Right? That's just me. But to say from a purely rational to say that, okay, hey, it's not understand, but I understand that saying they're not understanding from a purely rational perspective, that's actually, in my opinion, rather a defensible thing to say, because, yeah. So there are everything that somebody believes comes from kind of their foundation of what they know, and what happens is that the foundations, when you get to really down to them, right, the foundations of your epistemology, far as I can tell, none of them are purely rational. You have to make trade-offs, right? And sometimes those trade-offs are actually hard, and like they can be reasonable in the sense that you can give reasons for them, but they're not reasonable in that because they're actually foundational, and I might want black wool in the future. So I'm just going to go ahead and kill squid. No, I'm not going to kill squid. I'm not going to spend much time underwater for a very long time. Okay. Reeds. We want to grab ourselves some pumpkins. I think stone axe is actually the best one for that. So we got pumpkins. Because once I go to the island, I'm probably not going to be going off the island for a very long time. Oh, need to get some acacia. Acacia has this nice reddish wood. If I found a cherry blossom, cherry blossom and acacia, that nice pink and that nice red, okay, so I shouldn't do this. No, I won't do this yet, but acacia wood looks real good in my opinion. I thought I had two of those. Anyway. Now let's see what all this light was about. Oh, right. I need to get probably more than one acacia. But that's going into our, we're definitely keeping it side of things. Whereas, so sugarcane, seeds, we're going to have to pull us up some more seeds. But the logs, red sand, whatever, because I can grow more, right, if this is successful. If I successfully reach there, I'll grow more. And I need to be up 1, 2. There we go. So that I can get all of these logs. And if I had some cherry blossom, that'd be good. And I don't know if a wandering trader can spawn on a mushroom island. I suppose we'll find out eventually when that happens, or it just doesn't. But there's just so many things in the game that you get basically through wandering traders. And so if they do spawn, so I saw this video a few months ago how with just one lava block and a water block, you can get like almost everything in Minecraft. And like how kind of the minimal coverage that you would need to get like the vast majority of all of the farmable items in Minecraft is like 35. And so I'm probably going to have more than 35 blocks, but like, so for example, the wandering, and a lot of it is basically based off of, okay, Fox, give me an emerald so that I can trade with the wandering trader. Yeah, and that's what most of it is I need to trade with a wandering trader to get stuff. Not me personally, but more generally. And I think it's over this way. So where do I go? Oh, red. Nice. Red dye. And we're going to make our bed red. Boom. All right. Oh, wow. That's actually kind of cool. Like, seriously. See? Giant, massive cave cutting through that mountain like that. Beautiful. I love Minecraft. Like, so recently I did an experiment and went to like the 1.0 version of Minecraft, like the original alpha. I got started in beta, right? Just basically right when they switched from alpha to beta is when I got into Minecraft, okay? But what happens is that okay, cool. I actually have enough anyway. And we might need to sleep in a second. It's better, probably better to wait around, but I like to move. So I would like to have an entire stack of seeds when I get to the mushroom island I'm going to. Oh, good. So one of the things I wish you could do is name your creaking heart, and that would also like name the creaking that comes from it. And if you name it, then the creaking is hostile to everybody, everything else except like you and your stuff and whatnot. I think that would be cool. And I should probably just build myself a boat. What kind of boat do I want? Ooh, let's get acacia. Yeah, let's make ourselves an acacia boat. Nice. Mm-hmm. All right. Mushrooms are better than normal cows, by the way.
It is crazy to say that this man is God.
You said it, not me.
Well, so the thing is that did I just like throw something? No, I didn't. Okay. That was weird. So yeah, sure. It's crazy to believe it. And the reason, and so, but we have to, for lack of a better word, specify by what we mean by it's crazy. You know, it's something that you might not expect, you know, and its craziness is in what other people perceive it as, not as the rational, not as the kind of an anti-rational idea, or at least that's my perspective. I'll probably also be disagreeing with Jonathan Badgeau and Jordan Peterson as well as we go through this lecture very slowly. Where did my seeds go? There they are. I want to have an entire stack of seeds, so I'm just going to gather some. And if I could have an entire stack of sugarcane, that would also be awesome. Because what that means is I can start up the like early versions of the farm pretty easy, you know?
Welcome to Apologia, where a former Christian takes a look at the claims of Christians, or people who might be Christians but won't tell you, or maybe don't know themselves.
I'm not a believer. I'm not a Christian. I'm not an atheist. I'm a non-theist. I guess the closest name you could put to me is I'm sort of a Zen Neoplatonist.
Last Christmas, subscribers of Daily Wire Plus, a streaming service of sorts for Ben Shapiro's conservative media company, were graced with a 10-part lecture and discussion series titled The Gospels, hosted by fellow Canadian Jordan B. Peterson, seen here interviewing for the position of District Attorney of Gotham City. As part of his lifelong effort to rescue society from the meaning crisis that seeks to devour our culture, Peterson gathered 9 men willing to associate themselves with the network to unravel the mysteries of the gospel story and to resurrect the anchoring principles of the text that form the West. Or so said the promo copy, and my curiosity got the best of me. Unlike so many of the apologists we frequently cover on this channel, who at least put forth the artifice of advocating for the historical reliability of the Gospels, this panel didn't even pretend to care about the facts of the narrative.
The Exodus story is arguably the central narrative in the Old Testament.
Yeah, he's right about that. Like, it is the central narrative of the Old Testament. But like, so one of the things that I don't like here is that I just don't feel like Apologia is being, shall we say, charitable. Like, yes, I'm a theist. I think it's true that God exists and all that kind of good, fun stuff. But here's the thing, okay? You have to be charitable towards other people's perspectives. I try to be charitable towards other people's perspectives. And when you're not charitable, that's just not a good look. And, you know, he might be like, well, I don't care about being charitable. And fair enough, maybe. But, like, I think there's a real big intellectual virtue in being charitable to people, especially people that you disagree with. And Apologia, he can be a bit not charitable at times, you know? That said, like, I like a lot of the stuff that he's done. Like, I think he's smart. I just don't think he's right, you know? Get myself some more of these. All right. Anyway, let's go.
Now, there are many profound narratives in the Old Testament, some which are of equivalent depth, but there's none that have that combination of depth, narrative integrity, and detailed length.
For Peterson, length matters.
And Moses is a great prophet who is...
I mean, yeah. I'm like, so what happens is that you can have short little stories, right? And they can be important and they can matter. But what we're talking about isn't just this like little, for lack of a better word, trite, little stories can often, I'm not sure how to say this, but feel a bit less meaningful than, and I'm going the wrong direction. I think I have no idea where I am. I need to go in that direction more generally. So I think I'm going to just get off and go in it. Okay. So what happens is that for a story to be really meaningful, yeah, you do need it to be long, because it just covers so much more than a short story does. Short stories are awesome and they can get a lot of great stuff. But a short story doesn't do as much lifting as a long story. The longer the story is, the more lifting it can do, the more things it can touch on. And if you want a story that touches on, for the lack of a better word, all the aspects of human life, then you're going to want a long story, one that has breadth and depth to it. And you can get deep into it, but it's usually deep into this one little thing, okay? And the more that I continue to go in the right direction, and the more size that you have, there's a larger capacity for that, for broader depth. Yeah, broader depth. That makes sense. We'll grab some bamboo. We'll get ourselves a stack of bamboo. I'm just going to avoid jungle saplings for now. Oh, wow. That's a sharp cliff. Okay, let's go this way, I guess. Lots of cliffs here. Like to find some melons. Oh, coca beans. I'm going to need trees for coca beans and whatnot. Yeah. Okay, I'll grab some then. So the wood, jungle wood might be the only wood that's not like expendable, because because jungle wood is what coca beans grow on, and so you need to have specifically that. And if it wasn't for that, I might not get the jungle wood, just because it runs out and everything. But I do want to get one stack of jungle logs so that we can grow coca beans. Whoops. That would definitely give me 64. I went up there. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3. All right, let's
establishes the law. He's a central figure, and Christ plays the same role in the New Testament.
Yes, suspiciously so, as we'll discuss.
And his passion story has the same delineation of narrative detail combined with profound depth. And so it's very useful to understand the Exodus story and to understand the gospel story and to know both of them in relationship to one another. So that's the purpose of the investigation, is to bring people to the story, including ourselves, and to further our understanding and of the text upon which, for better or worse, the West is founded.
That's far too simplistic a take. The West is a synthesis of many ingredients, including Greek philosophy, Roman.
Okay, yes. The West is based on many, many things, right? But one of the most foundational, one of the most key things is the story of Jesus, right? It's like saying, oh, yeah, totally. We can have there's many ingredients. However, when you're baking a cake, some ingredients are bigger and more prominent, shall we say, than others. So, for example, like you might use, I'm terrible at this, but so for example, if you're baking a cake, right? What happens is, say you're going to put in like a little bit of salt, you're going to put in, but you're going to put in a lot of flour, right? And okay, am I going to be able to get down there? Because I definitely need to go that way. I'm just going to try and continue going up, I guess. Okay. So this is part of the fun part, where you get to, oh, wow. It's like a lot on this. Oh, that was on the grass. Boom, and boom. And now we've got 26 coca beans. Nice. And we got 23. That. So what does he use to make scaffolding? So at some point I'm gonna have to get myself like a string farm or something. I really want to get some melons. Like, but that's a really big cliff over there. Like, if there's a drop into the water over here, that'd be nice. Or I can just jump off and do a big cave, dive into the water. Huh. I wonder if I can stand on that. Yes, I can. I can also chop it down. Whee! This is probably the stupidest thing I've ever done. But, oh man, that could make it such a cool nerd pole. Now I'm wondering if I can nerd pole up it. One way to find out. Nerd pole. No. The answer is no, I can't. That's unfortunate. Maybe if I had Silk Touch. We'll have to try that later.
Law, Germanic institutions, and Enlightenment rationalism.
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of ingredients that go into Western culture.
Many of which...
And here's the part where he's being uncharitable, right? That I don't think they would say, like, German law is unimportant for Western culture, you know? And if you're just annoyed that, like, they're studying the Bible, yeah, don't be. You're kind of a jerk. If it, because and I think that's part of the value that Jordan Peterson is trying to bring as a non-believer studying these things is, hey, boom. Okay, cool. We got a stack. We probably want more later, but for now. But like, they're like, yeah, that's also foundational. That's what they'd say, right? I don't think that's the right way to go. So, and being like, well, why aren't we studying all these other things, you know? And I think we do, you know? So I'm not really sure what Paulogia's complaint is. Hey, we're going to study the Gospels, one of the foundational things of like our entire culture. Oh, doggies. I wish I had some bones to give them. I could get myself a doggy. Hold this for a little bit. Ooh, what's this? Nice. A gold. Oh. Man, that would be fun. That'd be cool to have. Gold. I'm going to have to come back for that because that might actually be important later.
Precede, contradict, or explicitly reject biblical frameworks. But we're going to let this foundation claim slide for today because we're focused on the panel's lack of historical inquiry.
History doesn't interest you at all, does it, baby?
Okay, so here's kind of my first question, okay? Is what they're primarily trying to do historical inquiry? I'll give you a hint. The answer's no. So you've got Jonathan Pageau, okay? His big thing is the symbolic world, okay? Jordan Peterson, love him, but he psychologizes everything, you know? So what I'm expecting, okay, out of these people is not, oh, hey, let's go through and examine the historical claims of Christianity, right? I'm expecting for it to be psychologized, narrativized, and symbolized, probably to death. But that's beside the point. Do I've got more than a stack of pumpkins? No, I only have 10 pumpkins. I only have 10 pumpkins. Anyway, let's get ourselves some more pumpkins. Okay, so I'm expecting it to be psychology, symbolism, narrative. That's what I'm expecting from this group. I am not expecting history from this group, you know? If I wanted history, I'd go to, I don't know, historian types, people who like talk about history. When was the last time that Jordan Peterson didn't talked about history in the historical sense? Like, okay, so I should probably clarify what I mean by the historical sense of history. So so for example, like the historical sense of history is here's what the Nazis did, right? But Jordan Peterson, he's much more about what was the psychology of the Nazi people that led them to do this? Not, oh, hey, what did they do? You know? And that looks like a good place to sleep. So, narrativize, psychologize, symbolize. That's what I'm expecting from this group, right? So I'm not expecting, hi, let's do history. And I think Paulogia is being, I think he's putting his expectations in the wrong place if that's what he wants from this group, right?
Diametrically opposite my concerns. They don't care if it's true, they care if it's useful.
Exactly.
It's not a fucking book. It's a weapon. A weapon aimed right at the hearts and minds of the weak and the desperate. It will give us control of them. People will come from all over. They do exactly what I tell them if the words are from the book.
I'm also here as someone interested in the cultural impact right now of the scriptures. I think it's fascinating. You played a role in this.
I will be honest with you. I do want the credit without any of the blame.
This is an invitation of sorts to what is a sacred text, to those who might be intellectually reluctant or even have intellectual shame about engaging with a story in a book like this.
There's an emerging coalition of intellectuals, public intellectuals, Jordan at the forefront, John too, who maybe are not card-carrying Christians, but who recognize the power of Christianity and are beginning to realize that we can't keep running on empty. That it may be the case that we're cutting off, Western culture is cutting off the branch that it's been sitting on, and that we're starting to get worried about this.
As a non-Christian, I'm trying to see how this text can be relevant to that challenge. I'm skeptical, not in the modern sense. I'm skeptical in the ancient sense. Skeptical means inquirer.
So I'm here for a number of reasons, one of which is to learn. And I've always found that I learn best from those who believe in the text that we're studying.
Sorry, Dennis Prager, but this may not be the panel for you. Only half identify as Christians. And when I was a Christian, I wouldn't have considered any of them to be saved.
I'm also here because...
So who's on this panel again? So it's original video. I want to see who's on this panel here.
Though I...
Scholars. So I know Jonathan Peugeot. I think I heard Bishop Barron's voice there. Yes, Bishop Barron. He's definitely not a Christian, 100%. Okay, I hope the sarcasm came through in there. Dennis Prager, he is Jewish, and like it or not, okay, the Bible is a fundamentally Jewish book, right? And if you're looking for something that's not Jewish, this is probably not the book for you, you know? I need to get myself and I think it's very appropriate that there are that James Prager, who's Jewish, is on this.
I'm not a Christian. The death of Christianity frightens me. It is my nightmare. And I ask people all the time, name me one ideology that has supplanted Christianity that has done good for humanity. And nobody can come up with an answer.
There is, I think, a profound hunger for these philosophical and theological questions that we find expressed, I find personally, in an inexpressibly beautiful manner in the Gospels.
So it seems to me there's nothing more important than our rediscovering modes of understanding what the human being is, what we are, and how we can recover our relation to what is most fundamental and real, which we could call, let's say, God. So I'm hoping that this text in all of its power will come alive for us, and we'll make some headway in that.
That is my hope, is to hopefully help people that are watching and everybody here see just how precious and beautiful this story is.
Not a one of them is entering into this conversation, even paying vague lip service to attempting to defend the content of the Gospels as historically accurate. I don't care one little bit about the utility of Christianity until we first settled in on the truth of Christianity. Maybe some Christians will give these impure motives a...
So I don't care about the utility of Christianity until we've proven the truth of Christianity. That's an interesting statement, right? So I think that he's probably roughly right here, that we have to be concerned about the truth, okay? On the other hand, like, the truth of Christianity isn't what these guys are going after, right? And if this is all he's going to do is, well, Christianity isn't true. There's a time and a place where Christianity isn't true, right? And I think that, and I think he's right here, that this is the primary concern, right? But the truth of Christianity isn't what they're discussing. They're discussing the usefulness of Christianity, and not being on board with what they're actually doing, I think really makes his critique not as good as it could be,
the pass because they're generally politically aligned with the panel participants, and they're generally advocating for the story to be a useful fiction. But can this strange bedfellow forgiveness cover the openly anti-Jesus salvation message of Dennis Prager?
We have entered a post-Christian, or really post-Judeo-Christian, world of the absurd. One final word. I see Christianity as a divinely ordained vehicle to bring the world to the Torah. So I have a very pro-Christian.
I see Christianity as the divinely provided way to, like, bring people to the Torah. No, I'm sorry. That's one of the things that if false, it cannot be, right? So, and that's like aggravating a little bit here, because if Christianity is false, it is not good, okay, in the slightest, and I wish more people would recognize that fact. And we're going to stop here for some dark wood and pale wood. Now, if I can just remember how to get out of my boat.
Jewish-based view. It hasn't always been done right, but Christians are human, and human nature is awful, or at least not particularly good.
I know that many Christians are pro-Jewish because they think that the path to Jesus' second coming requires a new temple in Jerusalem. But hear what Dennis is saying. He sees Christianity merely as a useful stone on the path to bring the world to Torah. What that might mean is homework for the listener, but it's not the kingdom of heaven promised in the New Testament. Both sides are transparently using each other with a smile, but this alignment of interests is temporary at best. It's never been a secret, but Jordan Peterson is saying the quiet parts loud in his thoughts about what he finds valuable in Christianity, a narrative with which to trick the masses into behaving the way he finds positive.
So I think part of the reason that we're in a crucial moment.
So this is, again, like, so there's two questions. Are narratives useful? Absolutely, yes. Are narratives true? Those are the two questions, right? And I think that, trick people into doing, I don't think that's necessarily what he's thinking, and you have to give people some narrative, right? So zero narrative is not an option, right? So you can't have basically anything without having a narrative around it, right? What is the story people are telling themselves? Because we are storytelling machines, right? And one of the weaknesses of atheism, in my opinion, and is that it doesn't have its narrative, right? And then there's people, well, it doesn't have a narrative in a bad way, okay? So it's not that there's no narrative, it's that, okay, so let me try and put my words together better. Atheism proudly says, hey, there is no narrative, there is no meaning to life, right? There's no greater meaning to life. There's just the meaning that you put into it, and if you're happy with that, great. If not, whatever. The universe does not care, okay? And it's less of a narrative than it is a anti-narrative, almost. Because and then people are like, okay, cool, how do I actually live my life? You know, and people create their own meanings, you know, and they're like, yes, that's the right way to do things. But what I found, okay, is that the idea that life is fundamentally meaningless, and that that there's nothing ultimate to strive for, that was not practically livable, right? It was a thought process that, like, I've been a Christian my entire life, but there's been times in my life where I've seriously thought about and considered atheism and other things. And I'm not sure how to explain it, but if I really truly embraced atheism and what it meant, it would leave my life significantly better off, right? You know, I'm not somebody who's like constantly depressed or anything, but there are certain times and experiences in my life where if I was an atheist, I would have considered that option more strongly, shall we say. You know, maybe I wouldn't have taken it anyway, but it wasn't the story I was telling myself about Jesus and his victory over death that brings us life. And I forgot my, you know, what's going to be funny is when they introduced the variants of the crafting table for each wood type, which I think would be cool, but it would annoy like the like completionist type people just a little bit, but it would also be kind of cool, you know? So, sorry, more random thoughts. Let's put some dark oak logs in there, put that there, and let's get that cooking. Oh yeah, an apple. So, apple for golden apples. We're gonna have to figure out how to make a potion of weakness at some point. Oh, another apple. We need to get as many apples as we can at this moment, so I don't have to worry about getting them later. Okay. Now for pale wood. I'd like to get some more dark oak saplings at some point too. Yeah, so the thing is that atheism denies the existence of an objective meaning, you know, and like a story, you know, that you can live in. And I'm probably going to say that a lot. A story you can live in. And it would be cool to find a creaking heart. Maybe I should just keep going until I find a creaking heart. Oh, right. I can't move them though, but I need the resin so I can, need enough resin so I can get a resin block, right? And if I can get myself a resin block, then that's going to make things you can make a creaking heart, I believe, from a resin block. And so I think that's 9 resin. So if I can get myself 9 resin off of resin blocks, that'd be cool. Or off of creaking hearts, that'd be cool.
Is because the Enlightenment doctrines that have savaged Christianity have also now turned upon themselves. And partly conceptually, but also scientifically, one of the things I've come to understand as a practicing research psychologist is that we see the world through a story. In fact, that's a technical description. A description of the structure through which someone sees the world is a story. It's their story. And we have to see the world through a story because we have to direct our attention. Okay, so then what's the story exactly? That's the crucial issue. What's the story?
If I grant for the sake of discussion that you've defined story so nebulously that it becomes a synonym for worldview, and the idea that everyone has a worldview is very banal and benign, even if it took you 63 seconds, 200 words, and a thesaurus to say it, that alone doesn't infer that there is a reality-aligned meta-narrative that is a prescriptive story arc for the universe that can also be mapped to an individual. There probably is no such story.
Well, maybe there is no story, but if there's no story, there's no point, and there's no aim, and there's no way of organizing attention and action. And in that chaos, there's nothing but despair. And I think that's also evident,
That's
say,
awesome.
neuropsychologically, neurophysiologically. No aim, no hope, and despair.
In a Christian apologist's hands, this would be an argument from consequences. No meta-narrative means individual consequences I don't like, therefore there must be a meta-narrative. At least Peterson is consistent enough to say that to avoid bad consequences, just plug in whatever story is most useful. He doesn't fall prey to claiming that that would make a high-utility story factually accurate. He's the opposite of me. He doesn't care one little bit if the story is historically reliable, only that it's useful. This is evident in how he shops for a meta-narrative.
What are candidates for the story? Well, the big candidates that have emerged since Nietzsche announced the death of God is the story of power and the story of sex. And those are good contenders for the throne. But power is the most dismal of stories, except for perhaps the story of hedonism, right? Those two things compete. These two great stories, power and sex, they lead to catastrophic ends. They play with each other, they rotate around each other, they drive us either towards a remarkably unproductive and bitter hedonism that cannot sustain itself psychologically or socially.
Again, no concern for truth, only utility as Peterson defines it.
And then on the power side, well, if everything's about power, then that claim to me is no different than the claim that, like, the spirit of Lucifer rules the world. It's the same claim in a different guise. There's nothing but power. All right, so there's no basis for marriage that isn't power. There's no basis for friendship that isn't power. There's no description of human society that isn't power. It's just all against all.
While I don't deny altruistic factors in our social activity, Peterson may want to brush up on game theory if he doesn't think that there are survival and even social power benefits irrevocably built into all friendships and marriages. Up until recent history, nearly all marriages were about consolidating resources and power. Perhaps you've never heard of Napoleon Bonaparte and Marie Louise of Austria.
Okay, so nearly all marriages are about kind of consolidating power. Are there some that were, like the one that he mentioned? Yeah, definitely. Nearly all of them about that? I don't think so. Like, so what we're talking about is, oh, good. I got 12. That's nice. I think I'll need some of the melon because I'm hungry and I need health back. Okay. So I'm going to just put everything almost in there. So stuff I've got to keep over here, stuff that I don't want to keep over there. Let's see. So I've got a plan for pale oak and dark oak and oak and birch. So there is a method to the madness there. Bwahaha. Oak. I'm going to keep that on me. Pumpkin, got to keep. Cobblestone. Kind of got to keep. I don't need this cobblestone, but I do need cobblestone in general. Apple is a must keep. So I'll put it there. There we go. Dark oak sapling is a must keep. So, yeah. As you can see, our inventory is filling up. And we have nowhere near our goal. But so most, I don't think that most marriages were primarily conducted for power. Some marriages have been, and he's right to cite like Napoleon or whatnot, but most marriages have not.
Catherine of Aragon and Henry VIII, or Antony and Cleopatra. Arguably, Christianity isn't a denial of power at all. It's a system of power deferred, and that deferral functions as a powerful mechanism of control. Believers are repeatedly instructed to submit, endure injustice, forgive abusers, obey authorities, accept suffering now, precisely because power, justice, and vindication are promised after death. The meek will inherit the earth, but not yet. The persecuted will be rewarded, but later the faithful will reign with Christ, judge angels, receive crowns, sit on thrones, but only once they're safely dead and no longer a threat to existing hierarchies. In the meantime, earthly power is framed as corrupt or satanic, while obedience and passivity are rebranded as virtue. This doesn't remove power from the equation. It delays it, weaponizing the afterlife as a behavioral leash that keeps people compliant in the present by promising ultimate dominance in the next world.
Not only is that a stunningly hellish and dismal story, I think there's absolutely no evidence that it's true and plenty of evidence that it's not. The religious question, the monotheistic question, could be conceptualized as what could unite even power and sex and something higher and harmonious psychologically and societally. And I think that's what the biblical corpus is about. I think that's what the Gospels focus on. And I've come to realize, to understand, not just to believe, but also to understand that it has something to do with sacrifice. And so to mature is to sacrifice. To mature is to sacrifice the immediate delights of power in the present for the long-term psychologically and the communal broadly. That's the definition of maturation. And there's a spirit that underlies that movement towards integration and community. And that spirit is the spirit of progressive sacrifice. And the gospel story is the culmination of the sacrificial story.
Peterson is right that Christianity centers on self-denial. But in the New Testament, sacrifice isn't about abandoning power. It's about getting far more power later. Thrones, crowns, judgment over the world, eternal authority, all of it's promised as long as you obey and submit now. That's theologically coherent, but it's also socially convenient. When the people in power tell everyone that a true maturity means giving up power in this life for rewards in the next one, that's a message that keeps the masses accepting their place. It tells them to endure hardship, to put off demanding justice. Christianity doesn't remove the power.
Okay, so that's one of the things that where I think Pelagia is just kind of wrong, is that Christianity demands that people delay justice. No, it's not. It's very much more of, if we can't get justice now, then we will have justice eventually, if that makes sense. And that's a very different story to tell oneself than to say that it's delaying justice. Part of the message of the Bible is that justice shouldn't be delayed, right? Because God hates injustice repeatedly. He says it over and over and over. I hate injustice. And what that inculcates into us is we also should and hate injustice. Like, come on, man. I'm so going to be leaving so much stuff here. Anyway, so Pelagia is incorrect that this is just that I think that Christianity demands you wait for justice. If you can get justice now, but if you don't get justice, right? Because that's the other flip side of the coin. Ian, what happens if you don't get justice now? Okay. And that's the question. And if you don't get justice now, then you'll get justice later. But I don't think there's a passivity towards justice that is encouraged by Christianity, right? It's just, whatever.
For motivation. It just repackages it as future compensation. And that repackaging makes selflessness a virtue, not just for your salvation, but for maintaining the earthly stability that benefits the people already in charge.
I don't understand how it can be true. I don't understand how it can be right, but I now don't understand how it cannot be true, because the converging evidence that something like the spirit of divine sacrifice animates the world, I think we're there. I think that's the realization. Now, what I hope to accomplish in this seminar is to further my understanding of that, because the story upon which our culture is based, the gospel story, let's say, is deeply mysterious and dramatically peculiar and hallucinogenic.
So one of the things that he said earlier, and I didn't kind of comment on, was that is narrative the same as worldview? No, it's not. So worldview is, this trivial, everyone has it, well, duh thing, but you can have the same, for lack of a better word, worldview, okay, but have different narratives about what that means, right? So now I will say they are definitely very, very deeply entwined, right? But being very deeply entwined is not the same thing as being fundamentally inseparable, So, yeah, no, I disagree with that. The world. So, what a worldview is it's a worldview is deeply entangled in your narrative, right? But I don't think it's the same. I don't think your worldview and your narrative are the same thing, right? So I don't know. Let's see what happens.
It's a trip, and it's not understandable from the purely rational perspective. Yet it seems to be right, and I don't know what that means. It's a terrifying thought, that's for sure.
I understand what you're reaching for. The sense that a story can feel so deep, so archetypal, so charged with symbolic weight, that it must be pointing to something real. But that's not evidence of a metaphysical principle. That's evidence of how human cognition works. We're wired to find sacrificial narratives meaningful. We project coherence. We see patterns.
okay, we are wired to find sacrificial narratives meaningful. Why? You know? And you can probably make up a story about how they're meaningful. But I hope I don't screw myself with this one. So why do we find sacrificial narratives meaningful, right?
We feel significance. And so, yes, the gospel story can seem mysterious, peculiar, even hallucinatory in its emotional resonance. But feeling that mystery doesn't make the story true. It makes the story powerful. The leap from "this moves me" to "this animates the cosmos" isn't insight. It's intuition mistaken for ontology.
The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom.
Okay, so here's one thing that Paul Ogier does, right? He says, hey, this is intuition mistaken for ontology. But then when you go into, like, as far as I can tell, the actual philosophical literature, yeah, no, your philosophical perspective is deeply so what I'm doing is I'm hoping I can find a creaking now that it's dark. Hit it and then hit it, maybe hit it several times. Hit it and run away is the plan. Like brave Sir Robin. Okay, well, that's a difficulty. Okay, there's the creaking. Now we're going to go to bed. And just walk away slowly. I think we're not followed. Good. Oh, fucking. Well, that was a good job. I didn't even get where I wanted to go. So, yeah, ZapMe Chronicles, episode 1. Good job.